Welcome to Talking Marijuana. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a really nice show coming up ahead of us. I'm very much looking forward to it. Let's introduce who we are. I'm Barry Kramer. I am the patient operator of California Patients Alliance. We are a GLACA-approved medical marijuana dispensary here in the city of Los Angeles. And my co-host here with me today.
I'm Yami Bolaños. I am patient operator for Pure Life Alternative Wellness Center on La Cienega, which is also a fully accredited GLACA dispensary. I'm also the founder and president of the Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance, which has been a sign of excellence in medical marijuana in the city of Los Angeles since 2006. And on the phone with us is...
Hello, it's Duncan joining you from Sacramento. I'm the California Director of Americans for Safe Access.
Awesome. Hi, Don in Sacramento. Today we have two guests with us. We have Jeanette Perez.
Jeanette Perez. Mm-hmm.
I'm so bad with names, but I'm just going to cop to it and go there. But Jeanette Perez and Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore. And our two guests today are from an organization called CCHI, California
Cannabis Hemp Initiative 2014.
Yay. And we are going to discuss today one of the 2014 initiatives. And they've been very kind to come in and talk to us in the studio here.
I'm looking forward to hearing everything.
Yeah, yes, definitely looking forward to that. We're going to start the show out today, though, with one small news item that really touches our hearts quite closely. Don, I think I'm going to turn it over to you so we can talk about Jovan's case. We mentioned it a little bit last week. This is Jovan Jackson, and take it away, Don. Let's talk about
thanks,
this.
Barry, and it is bad news out of San Diego. I'm sorry to report yesterday the jury convicted Jovan Jackson on 3 medical marijuana charges. And that's really a kick in the teeth for him because this is actually his third trial following his raid, which actually took place. It's been almost 6 years ago now that all of this started. And so poor Jovan Jackson has actually just gone through his third trial and was convicted. It's been sort of a back and forth for him. For people who haven't been following that story, Jovan's a Navy veteran and a medical cannabis patient in San Diego. And he got rounded up way back in 2008, I think, is when this trouble started. He got rounded up in Operation Green Merchant, which was a local crackdown on medical cannabis. His dispensary was raided, and he went to trial and was acquitted of all medical cannabis charges. He won the fight. And the district attorney didn't like that and charged him again, brought him back to court a second time, came back and was actually convicted the second time. So Americans for Safe Access took his case, took it on appeal, and overturned his conviction in state court, which is very important in that case. People versus Jackson actually established the right to a defense in state court for people who operate medical marijuana cooperatives and collectives. So that should have been the end of the act. You've been prosecuted twice. Your conviction's been overturned.
For most people,
it is. You've got a binding precedent now that establishes your defense. But the district attorney down there in San Diego, Bonnie Dumanis, is really just virulently opposed to medical cannabis, and she prosecuted this guy a third time and was able this time to get a conviction on all 3 counts. So after all these years, going all the way back to 2008, Jovan Jackson is now convicted, and of course we'll have to go now again for a second appeal to see if we can get that conviction overturned.
Don,
so really just bad news for him.
Don, haven't people been released from custody because of the appeal that was won? I mean, that's been quoted and people have been set free?
Yeah, exactly, because in the, in People versus Jackson, the president says that a person who operates a medical marijuana cooperative and collective can talk about that and have that as defense in court. And you might think that was already the case, but in many conservative courts, people aren't allowed to talk about the fact that the marijuana they were providing was part of a collective and cooperative that's legal under the state law. If you can't bring that up in front of the jury, all you can say is, I was selling marijuana. And that, of course, would be a felony. And, people are, of course, convicted that way. So it was really important that we had that defense established. But just having a defense is not a guarantee of an acquittal. And that's the trap that Jovan Jackson's in right now, is that even though he established his defense, he was able to use his defense, he was still convicted. And you know what? Courtrooms are funny places, and they're not always places where the truth comes out. It's sometimes more about process. And they're certainly not places where justice is always done.
Yeah, it was
that seems to be what happened yesterday.
It was a real slap in the face for me. I remember about 5 years ago, we went to federal court to give court support for one of our colleagues, a dispensary operator. And this was before the Jackson appeal, so he was not allowed to talk. He was not allowed to have an affirmative defense. So we sat there listening in the court, which is supposed to be a court of truth and justice, and you have no truth coming out and justice being, spit upon by the federal government, because they're the federal government and they can say, oh yeah, you don't get to talk about why you're doing this or the reasons. It was an eye opener for me, and that
is still the case in federal court, of course. In federal court, you still can't make a defense for medical cannabis. But most people, I think that today you can make a defense in state court. If you're in California and you're facing charges, you can just go explain it. And the fact is that everything that you get to say in court, the judge signs off on in advance in pretrial hearings. And if the judge denies your defense and says you can't use the defense that you're collective and cooperative, you're in a lot of trouble now because you've got all this marijuana you were selling, people paid you for it. It sure looks like a felony. And if you can't tell the jury, hey, wait a minute, this was collective and cooperative cultivation authorized under Proposition 215 SB 420, then, you're really going to look bad in front of the jury. So it was a great victory that Jovan Jackson took. And I'll give the guy credit, he could have settled. He could have taken a deal, when he was first charged back in 2008. But instead, he's stuck it out and he's fought the good fight, and he's really accomplished something important for patients and caregivers who operate for organizations that provide medicine.
Well, he's definitely.
So we're really hoping for the best for him. And of course, it's not over. We're going to go to appeal and keep fighting this thing. But what a shame that we have to.
And is ASA going to be part of the appeal process?
We are certainly standing by to participate if we're wanted. He is represented by counsel, a really great attorney down in San Diego named Lance Rogers. And so we'll take our cue from Lance.
And, I think people must have anticipated that this could have been the outcome. Is there any feeling about where an appeal would go with this, or do they feel strong that
appeals are very, we don't know yet. Lawyers are going to have to look over the transcript and the verdict and the jury instructions and all the details, because appeals are won and lost on details. So the facts of the case, from back from 2008, are actually less important at this point, and what really matters now is the procedural justice, and sort of larger constitutional issues. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet. Remember, the first time we appealed, the successful appeal, which still stands, by the way, the precedent still stands in People versus Jackson. That was based on the fact that he was not allowed to tell the jury that he might have a defense under state law. So it will be a different matter for appeal for this trial. And frankly, I haven't looked at the documents and can't have even informed guess what the grounds for appeal will be at this point.
Well, you sure hope that he wins the next appeal.
The best for him. We'll definitely continue to follow the story and get updates from you on this, Don. And
yes, keep an eye on our blog. We're doing updates on it. And I also want to tell folks, this may seem far away to a lot of people who aren't in San Diego or aren't even in California. But for me, the Jovan Jackson story is a cautionary tale, because I think it's very easy in this day where there's so much momentum towards industry and big business and all of that, for us to forget that individual human beings, are at jeopardy. They're still at risk. And even if marijuana markets are growing and markets are opening up, human beings are still at risk. And so we're not leaving activism behind. We still have to be activists and advocates.
And we're going to get into that a little bit more when we discuss CCHI, because a a big part of your initiative, I know, is about releasing prisoners that are in jail for possession, simple possession, things like that. We'll get into that in a little bit.
So, Don, let's change the subject a little bit. Let's go to celebration. Today is the 18th anniversary of 215 passing, and I personally would like to say thank you to all those Jose Gutierrez's and Richard Millers out there that collected signatures and made this law a reality. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, because if it wasn't 18 years later, I wouldn't be sitting here talking. Yeah, I wouldn't be here talking about anything. I'd probably be dead. if it wasn't because
You guys
of
wanna
medical
sing happy
marijuana. So
birthday,
thank you, everybody.
Do you want to
passed
explain that statement to the listeners that don't know you?
Sorry. I was at Stanford University recovering from a liver transplant when this law was passed in California. At the time, I didn't think that it meant anything to me. I just knew that the nurses and all the people in the hospital were awfully happy about that law passing. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of potheads in this hospital. Everybody's happy. Never in a million years did I think that it was going to lead to my liberation and my being able to live the life that I live today. So that's why I'm very appreciative and grateful to those people that passed 215. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Because after my liver transplant, after 4 years of withering in pain and being a prisoner in my house and all the horrible things that happened to me, I picked up a joint, I smoked it, and the rest is history. It's magic. It's medicine. Cannabis is my medicine. And again, thank you. And congratulations, California.
And some of the news that we're going to talk about today, this story is repeated over and over. People not understanding about marijuana's benefits, and when it hits them in a personal way, it literally changes their life. And we'll talk again more about that in some other news stories, but it's a great celebration to mark. It's really amazing because we were the first on board, California, and everything that came after really came from the actions that the advocates took way back when, and for years before it actually was passed, there was a lot of work going on, just like you guys for years have worked very strongly to get this initiative passed. And I know it's another celebration today, another day marked for something that you guys went through downtown.
Yes, this is a 2-year anniversary of the LA Occupy, the
LA
Los Angeles
Occupy.
Occupy. We were down
A
at
strong
City Hall.
movement.
Yeah, we were down at City Hall for the 2 months that the encampment was. We've been meeting every week since then. So LA Occupy is very organized and very strong, and going to this day.
That's really
we
great
have
to hear. I have to say that I did not know that it was still as strong.
it's very strong.
And it's gotten that strong. That's great.
Certainly, from the time they committed the crime of evicting us from City Hall, they've quit talking about us in mainstream media and have done their best to ignore us. But as an organization with 3,000 branches around the world, we're continually growing. That wasn't our statement. That was part of what we were doing at that moment. But our statement is involved in long-term goals of correcting high financial crime. And
absolutely.
Yeah, this also takes me back to my youth when I met Jack Hare in the early 90s when we were working on this initiative and agreed to, and there was a period of coming together of camps with Dennis Perone and the medical marijuana movement, and I was there at the moment that Jack decided to work with the Compassionate Use Act, to get our foot in the door, to get something passed, and the need of patients is really what stood out. Strategically, we didn't know if it was the best thing to do, but couldn't know who could argue against compassionate use.
Absolutely.
So we agreed to coalesce our efforts into one movement, and we're hoping that the medical community will meet us back, as we always thought was going to happen, and go for full legalization. We need support of the organized medical community in California to help carry this forward.
There's been some rocky moments in that relationship between the medical community and the legalization community. It'd be nice to chat about that for a little bit. Let's go to a break so that we can have a nice long sort of go at this discussion.
Fantastic.
And again, so happy that you guys are here, and we will see you guys right after the break.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody, Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Marijuana with Don and Yami and Barry, and our guests Jeanette and Patrick from
today.
CCHI, the California Cannabis and Hemp Initiative of 2014. Let's get right into it. Let's discuss the California Cannabis and Hemp Initiative of 2014. How about we lay out the bullet points of what this initiative is trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, we're most excited to have this initiative because it was really well crafted by Jack Hare over the course of 20 years. This wasn't something that was quickly come up with. Jack, who understood herb and herbal culture as well or better than most, put a libertarian kind of slant on the idea of how legalization should look, the idea that protecting the liberties of the individual citizen was the highest priority of this law, and ensuring equal and fair access for everybody was fundamental and primary. And he really worked, and as I read it, each time I reread it, it reads more like legal poetry. It really strikes me more profoundly over the years now how hard it is to make things simple. And yet Jack Hare's initiative is often commented as being very simple and very easy to understand, much like 215. Many people would read that, even if they'd sign it, they'd kind of laugh at us and be like, but that doesn't look like a law. That doesn't seem like a law there. That I can understand it all. That can be our new principle of good law. Law can be understood by the common person.
Maybe before it's passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be clear. Yeah.
So yeah, Jack's law is in clear, plain English. It's very easy to understand and very broad in its implications, and the fact that it protects the California citizen in every which way possible to be able to pursue their future involving cannabis. And on the individual level, it's 99 plants for the 99%, and 12.
Also for the federal legal limit.
Right, it keeps us one
Under the legal
Absolutely.
Allows every person to have a healthy production of plants. You know, this limiting at 10 plants or 12 plants or 15 plants. We all know that if you get lost along the way in a season, it's very hard to get a year's worth of medicine out of, a few plants, a dozen plants. Right. So trying to be realistic and be equitable, and 12 pounds of flowers, trim flowers, and then you move into the professional status. And instead of being able to be regulated out of it with a $150,000 liquor license like Los Angeles, it's a $1,000 licensing fee to get involved in a profession of cannabis. Mm-hmm. So again, making it fair, making it equitable, and something people can actually work with and get their hands on. And
right.
I'm very proud of that.
Well, we're finding in I think it's in Colorado that I've lost my train of thought on what that was, but let's continue with this. I'll get back on that.
We're able to see in Colorado and Washington the true brilliance of the Jack Hare initiative, and the fact that inferior written legislation leads to problems.
Absolutely.
And already I know people who are in Colorado who are planning on leaving Colorado who are very passionate about the cannabis industry but feel like they're about to get squeezed by a bureaucracy that's not going to allow them to do natural things, normal things. Mm-hmm. In Washington, the precedent of becoming a felony for driving is very frightening. And we find that there are often these hooks, whether it be smoking in the presence of a child or being under the 5.5 nanograms while you're driving.
Right, now there's lots of hooks.
People's initiatives being written that are going to make the common cannabis consumer a felon or a criminal. And I do not know that is not in the Jack Hare initiative. We go so far as to say not only are we not going to create felons, we're going to erase felons. So every person in the state who's ever been convicted of a cannabis crime can go and have it all reevaluated, and in light of the new law, erased and expunged. So not only are they let out of jail, but they're let out of the system. So they're no longer on felony or probation. They can go back to being teachers or truck drivers or whatever they were before they're convicted felons.
Not have that record of something that should never have been on their record taint the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
That's a great clause in there.
How much would something like that cost the state, though? Has anyone asked you that question? Because if you were like to go, and believe me, I'm not, I would want anyone that got busted for possession of pot or whatever, to get released. They shouldn't be in jail. I'm with you, okay? Sure. But if that law were to pass, how much would it cost to everybody that's in jail get their case reevaluated so that then they can maybe be let free? I mean,
the state's already issued their statement back to us. We're a month into already getting signatures. We're full on in the campaign. So the state issued us our statement back, our official statement back, including a budget summary. And they said it would save the state in the low hundreds of millions, and it would make the state in the low hundreds of millions. So we're looking at a revenue production of low hundreds of millions and a savings for the state in the low hundreds of millions, and that's from Sacramento
that's from
2 months ago.
Interesting.
So
that's if your initiative were to pass forward.
Yes.
Okay, but no, I'm talking about all the people that are in jail that need to be reevaluated and let go. How much is that going to cost?
That's what
that's
they
part of the
evaluate.
cost.
Part of it.
Oh,
That's part of it.
okay.
That's
So
right.
basically,
that's
you're
good,
saying that the state's evaluated your initiative and the repercussions financially to the state of the propositions in your initiative, and it comes out as a net
A
gain.
net, a gain of
that's great.
low hundreds of millions, and a savings of low hundreds of millions, and both of those are low. It really is quantumly more, but conservatively, we're going to make the state a couple hundreds. And
Well, our lawmakers always like to look at things that are going to make and save
And the state,
money.
well, the state already is mandated to let go of 10,000 prisoners, and they haven't let
Correct.
go of
Yeah, of
anybody.
anybody because he hasn't decided what he wants to do with them, right?
Well,
and they're not
mean,
allowed to let go of drug criminals. So they have to let go of 10,000. They're under federal mandate to let go of 10,000 criminals, but we cannot let go of any drug criminals. So
I didn't know that
I didn't
factor
know
in
that.
that
So
at
pot
all.
growers cannot be part of that equation, so they'll be forced to let violent
Criminals out.
criminals go while holding pot growers in jail through this whole process.
Is there a stipulation to that they can't let drug or pot
Oh
growers?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Well, not
anybody,
pot growers,
it's anybody
but
who's
drug
convicted
criminals.
of a drug
Drug
crime.
crime.
So
Oh,
if
okay,
it falls under that, then cannabis convictions don't
Then
qualify.
they won't let you go. Wow.
Exactly.
But if you killed somebody or ran
if you
somebody
killed
over when
somebody
you were
or
drunk,
raped somebody or
you can go.
assaulted somebody, yeah. you're
Cannabis
free
seems to be
go.
treated like this across the country. We were reading an article about Oakland, the murder capital of the world in our state here of California, and there they 95% they turn over all drug related crimes. In other words, if you're convicted of a drug-related crime, you're going to get your day in court really quick, and you're going to either get free or not. Whereas they have 7 years worth of backlog.
650 unresolved homicides.
650
in the city
unresolved
of Oakland.
homicides, and they're coming under fire for paying attention to the silly drug
so
crimes.
So much more important to find out what kind of drugs those people had that they had on their body than to find out who killed somebody else.
Well, what's important and how that
Get it.
translates in Oakland is that it gives them a record of solving crime, solving crime, and they're doing it, but it's all on the minor drug crimes and not on the major crimes that are plaguing their communities up there. And this is a problem throughout the country. What I was going to say earlier that I kind of blanked on is that there is this disparity between legal and medical marijuana that's now starting to appear up in Washington State. They want to deny medical marijuana. They just want to cancel all their
wanna
medical
step on
marijuana
medical
gains
or legalization.
and go for legalization. And that's going to be a real difficulty. Don, you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I was going to say that that issue between a sort of a disconnect between medical cannabis and non-medical cannabis, it doesn't have to exist, but unfortunately it is playing out in Washington State, and that's something we've got to be very careful of in other states, here in California and everywhere else, is
Absolutely.
that as we move forward on non-medical cannabis issues, that we never step on the patient's toes, because I know for a lot of people medical cannabis was a stepping stone or a wedge or what have you. Not for all of us. There are people that I love who use medical cannabis, and they're not strategies or stepping stones at all. They're human beings.
And not for people like Jack Herrera either. I mean, Jack really believed in patients' rights, and I mean, I know he wanted legal marijuana and he wanted everybody to be smoking. He was a great advocate for that, but he understood that people needed this medicine, and that was key and important, and you don't take away those rights.
Because medical marijuana was not a bait and switch or a tactic. to legalize pot.
No.
There are a lot of very sincere people
that worked
who have
hard.
been working on that campaign for many, many years.
And who aren't alive
really
these days.
disrespects the work that's come before it to step on it. So I'm really disturbed by Washington, and I'm glad to see that we haven't seen that in California yet. Even with Prop 19, I felt like they were careful. Whether or not they were successful is a matter of opinion, but they were very careful not to step on medical patients in that.
In
So I
Washington-
hope that's a trend we see continuing.
In Washington, it seems like the only thing they're caring about is the money. You know, the
I don't
people
want to
in
get
Washington
off topic on
State.
Washington. We'll take it up in another
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. No, we definitely have. We have lots of things, but let's do. We tend to get a little scattered on this show because
they want to make tons of money, and patients are standing in the way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I know Jack Hare very clearly stated in the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative that patients' rights are to be protected and enhanced. So it protects all the rights they have now and
And even
enhances
more.
them out even further. So it is certainly and it leaves them untaxed. So
I was going to
whereas
say, you guys there's no tax on medical
no
marijuana
tax
in
on
your
medical
initiative.
marijuana and a limit of 10% tax on personal or religious use, which is realistic as well, because
Sure.
we're watching the tax rate starting to blow up in these
Climb. Well,
Colorado
everybody's
places
putting
we're
their
looking at.
10% here, 10% here, 10% there, and you're all of a
Adds
sudden
up
you're down
quickly.
100% tax, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Right. No, we're very close to that in Colorado. I think in the next year we watch all these taxes, all these overlap taxes.
Overlapping.
I heard it's going to be near 90% already. and
Washington
that's
is
in 1 year.
75.
75%, right?
Isn't
That's in the first year.
it today that Colorado's voting on a 25% tax? Is that right?
I think you're correct on that. Today is the day, and
that
we
they're
should
voting.
hear that news by our next show, and we'll talk about that.
Sure,
But
we'll talk about it. Yeah, 25%.
And then we stipulate that half of the tax raised has to be put into a fund for re-education, because we've propagandized the population for 80 years, and there are mothers and grandmothers and people out there who are actually scared of this plant
Absolutely.
still. So we're going to have to spend some millions of dollars re-educating people and doing research on industrial development, because we're now a decade behind Canada and Russia.
Absolutely.
And Canada and Germany on developing hemp textiles and hemp cars and hemp houses, and these are this is an issue that really stirs me.
It's
to
the most
deepest.
exciting
Absolutely.
part about the initiative, the being able to grow hemp in California. I think it's such a ridiculous thing that we import hemp from Canada and everywhere else. That the
For a
federal
harmless
government
plant, it's just the
imports
connection.
hemp, for paper. It's just crazy that we can't grow hemp, and then this country's the economy is so messed up, and it would help the economy so much. It's just crazy that hemp isn't legal. And
Sure. Well, we challenge the pharmaceutical industry and also the petroleum industry, and those are two big heavyweights that control
Huge
commerce.
heavyweights, and with all the money behind them. I mean, I know that you guys are out getting your petitions now and getting your signatures, but you have a large financial mountain to climb, whereas the people that are fighting you just sort of dip into their spare change and fight you with that. It's horribly unbalanced
the
that way.
truth is that in this state and in this country, democracy is very expensive. And having just come off of Los Angeles, where we stopped a ban and we actually put an initiative on the ballot that won, Measure D, it cost us $1.5 million in Los Angeles. We had to collect 75,000 signatures. How much do you guys think it's going to cost to do this on a state level?
We are blessed again and again and again, and this time by working with Jack Hare. Jack Hare was so excited by the California People's Initiative process, the fact that not all states can do this.
Right.
In California, we can write our own laws, sidestep Sacramento, sidestep the governor, and when we pass that law, it stands as the highest law in the land. So it can't be then rewritten by Sacramento.
Right.
Nobody can go in and override it without another People's Initiative.
Right.
So
Barry,
Yes.
regarding the cost of this, two observations. One is that our opponents don't really have limitless resources, although it seems like they do, and they often have more than we do. But one of the funny things we saw a few years ago with Prop 19 in California is that our opponents really had a hard time raising money to oppose it. So let's take that where I can. They didn't have
Point taken. I definitely would think that there's just bottomless money on the other side, but that's our mythology too. We have a mythology on our
much
side.
to fight against. But one other point to make about voter initiative. Back with Proposition 215, the historical record indicates about $2 million to get that on the ballot. Now, that doesn't necessarily include television commercials and posters.
And that was back in
advertising
1996.
for the campaign. That's to get on the ballot. If you adjust that from 1996, that's about $3 million today. So it's certainly not cheap, and so I don't want to downplay it. Though our opponents aren't that well funded. Because the cost of actually putting the question to voters is about $3 million unless it gets controversial. And then that price tag can shoot up. I saw some of the initiatives last year. I think you combined the budget for all the initiatives last year. It was $28 million that was spent trying to get things on the ballot last year.
Good Lord.
Definitely this aspect of democracy is very controversial because it is very susceptible to big money.
Well, as I was explaining, Don, we have a background in the people's petition process here in California through Jack Hare that's allowing us to buy signatures today for 25 cents a signature.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we don't expect that to go up. So our entire cost for passing this initiative today would be $200,000. It may go up a little bit. It may actually in the next 200. That's
to raise the signatures.
25 cents a signature.
So to raise the signatures and get it on.
That's a phenomenally low rate.
Yeah.
Wow,
we are not only
I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a pause. We need to take a pause, and this is great stuff. And we're gonna come back and talk about the finances a little bit on this and how they kind of square out. Okay, so let's take a little break. We'll be right back.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody, Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
We are back with Talking Marijuana and our guests Patrick and Jeanette from CCHI, one of the 2014 initiatives on the trying to be put on the California state ballot to legalize marijuana. And we were talking finances. And Patrick, you were in the middle of making a point. So.
Well, like I say, Jack's reputation carries more weight, and unfortunately, after his passing, than it did in his life. And yes, it's going to cost us much less to pass this initiative than it cost Prop 215, 18 years ago, or any other initiative. I know other initiatives are paying $4, $5, $6 a signature on average. So when the media quotes it's going to cost us $7, $8, $9 million to pass this initiative, they're generally right. But we are not only I believe the finest initiative ever written, but we're the bottom basement bargain here. We're the easiest to pass in California.
I mean, it will. You think it? How is it bargain basement? What does that refer to?
$200,000 in contrast to $8 million. So we're looking at
let me ask you this: the $200,000. It seems like you're talking about raising the signatures because that's 25 cents.
The signatures.
So that's
how many signatures do you need?
Around 750,000.
And at 25 cents a signature, that's $250,000.
That's a little less.
Something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's one financial aspect of this proposition, because the greater money output, I would think, would be in getting the word out to people and advertising and that kind of thing, which here, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we just went through it here in LA on a small scale, just in the city, trying to pass Measure D, which would
no commercials, no ads. I mean, we had a couple ads.
We couldn't afford commercials. Ads. Really, all we could afford was what's called slate packaging, where you get on slates that encompass a whole range of topics and items that are going to be voted on, and you're sort of put forward with that group. We had money to get on those slates. That was very expensive. We had limited resources, very limited resources.
Limited. Talk about bargain rights. Yeah.
And quite honestly, we still haven't paid off the people that really lent great amount of effort to that cause, and we're going to, but it cost a lot of money, and so the money was really on the back end. It wasn't by saying, let's just do this, let's get the signatures. They cost us a certain amount of output. We paid for those. Those had to be paid for, or you don't get them, as well. So what do you expect the costs to be, and how do you expect to raise the kind of money? Because certainly you'll have a lot of opposition if it does get, if you do get the signatures, and let us sign that as well. And how do you expect that to play out?
Well, we're in dialogue with a lot of people right now. We're carrying this over from the 2012 campaign, so we have infrastructure that's been around for 3 or 4 years now. And we believe that there are idealists and visionaries out there who can see the potential of the new $1 trillion crop, as it is often called now, is the new $1 billion crop in 1938 when they banned it from popular mechanics. So now it's certainly the new $1 trillion crop. And the idea of investing a few $100,000, or the idea is going to take a few $1 million to get this in our possession is it's pennies for the $100.
Right.
I mean, it really is almost nothing to have so much given back. So we know there are people out there. We know there are people watching us, monitoring us closely,
seeing how the signature gathering goes,
and the ballot. From there, really, I'm not so concerned about getting through to the people because they hear about us every day. I mean, the cannabis issue is now a frontline mainstream issue. It's being talked about on mainstream media. Where 4, 5, 6 years ago, even 2 years ago, not so much. So having a very well-written, clear initiative, it speaks for itself. We'll continue our grassroots campaign, which we believe is more effective than mainstream media in many, many ways, and for several reasons. But we also we understand that everyone will have to look at this on their own. It will be talked about, whether it be from the news, whether it be from the opposition standing against us, and then people simply read it because it's not a 30-page boondoggle. It's very simple and easy to understand. So we think the process of democracy can work out without having to throw hundreds of millions into it, because truth speaks for itself in so many ways. Jack's legacy is very strong in this state with many of the counterculture, as it were. And the message is so clear that, again, Sanjay's on our side now. Everybody seems like they're on our side. If they've given
seems inevitable that we are going to have legal marijuana.
Yes.
Don, come on in.
Don, in terms of public perception of this, one of the struggles I deal with in my work is that things often seem very different from our side than they do to people outside cannabis communities and medical cannabis communities. And I'm wondering if you have a feel for polling, focus groups, or anything that would indicate to you how a non-cannabis California would look at CCHI. Do they get it?
Oh, yeah. No, we've been polling. I've been doing an unofficial poll for 20 years now since I met Jack Hare and he first handed this to me. So I've spent my life asking people what they think about this. And especially now that we're over such the hurdle of the medical side of this, people are seeing that, we can have this for decades in a state, and there isn't a run of crime. Crime's gotten better. Things have gotten better in every which way. People are really seeing the cannabinoids are curing cancer stories. It's starting to come out in research now. So now the next issue is resources. Well, who wants to cut down the last tree in California? Who wants to continue on with the paying the Saudis to run the world? Who wants to continue on with the 1,000 oil barons instead of the 100 million hemp farmers? That was the postulation put forward 100 years ago. That's what Rudolph Diesel and George Washington Carver were working on, empowering 100 million hemp farmers in the world to control the world's economy instead of those 1,000 oil barons. We've seen the 20th century hasn't gone so well. So the idea of having a localized, reliable, dependable resource that can create food, fuel, fiber, medicine makes a lot of sense to the average California voter. I mean, there's from the very, very old to the very, very young to the very, very conservative, there's nobody who doesn't really get the idea that, wow, if we could, and I got a Mercedes-Benz, I've been running on hemp oil for 5 years now.
Really?
So I can make the point.
You lived the line. That's good.
From head to toe, ate it this
French
morning.
fries.
Right, and it smells like French fries. I can sit in my garage all weekend with my car running and I won't die. So it gets
and you
better.
won't get hungry because you'll feel like you're eating.
You'll feel full.
Going back to the civic participation opportunity of this initiative, I mean, here in California, 18-year-olds, every year, you have 50% of the new voting population are Latino and Latina youth turning 18 years old. And so, I mean, if we really want to hold on to our democracy, then organizations will then do outreach, and that's what we're trying to do. We're working on outreaching to these organizations to register people to vote,
That's
young
great.
people, 18-year-olds, and
It's the key.
up.
It's the definite key to
But
getting
I
anything
think
you
that
want
as far
done.
as Latinos being educated on this subject, believe me, darling, that's one of my pet, projects.
Right.
That as soon as I'm done with transparent discrimination and employment discrimination, then my Latinos is what I'm going to tackle. We have lack of education on this subject like nobody else. And
The Latino community?
The Latino community. Oh my God, yes. Because from the time we're little, we're told how bad it is. And the only people in our community that use marijuana as medicine are the very humble people from the country. Because your educated young Latinos in
Right.
they're all like, oh no,
Sure, I would call them more Americanized.
Well,
young Latinos.
everyone's Americanized.
No, we are.
No, but it's a
Corporatized.
delineation.
Right. But it's,
For sure.
Yeah, but it's going back again to like the apothecary.
Well,
like grandmothers using it for their
Yes,
arthritis.
Of course,
people
of
using
course.
it for.
I've told a story about my mom. All my life, I heard her bitching at my dad because he had this bottle of alcohol in the garage, and my dad never drank. So like after he died, we're in the garage going through all this stuff. He had 2 big old bottles of 2 old colas in them. Okay, that he put on his knees because he had arthritis in his knees. And so yes, but it's been looked down on. But I heard the other day too. There's a thing about Latinos. We are the most smoking cannabis people in the world. We smoke cannabis more than anybody else, us Latinos. So that's who needs to be educated in a big way because there's a lot of voting power there.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
To tap into that, it would pass.
Yes, Don. Don, come. You got something to say?
Yeah, another question I have is, obviously there are 2, I think, initiatives that are gathering signatures for 2014 right
Yes.
now. But also there's a drive for 26 voter initiative.
2016.
So you guys alluded to why I think you prefer the Jack Herrera initiative. But why not everyone join together in one big push in 2016, especially if they have big funding and broad
they have the
support?
money.
Is that a good
It's a good,
strategy or
interesting
not?
question for you.
We could ask Eddie Lepp if he'd like to sit in jail for another 2
geez.
years. I mean, we just can't
Yeah.
wait.
No.
We have an election in 2014. We have invited every person who's part of this 2016 coalition to join us and pass progressive legislation in 2014 and not to leave our brothers and sisters in jail for another 2 years, not to allow these crimes to be committed against the cannabis community for another 2 years. The moment is now. And the fact that everybody's decided to wait till 2016 and to form a coalition to create a piece of legislation that will be, from our point of view, a compromise, a step away from free and equal access and the brilliance that Jack Harris put forward in this bill it's hard for me to comprehend.
How that would be.
We made the offer for everybody to come help us, and we still do. We reach out to everybody. We have 4 months left. We're 1 month into it. We have 4 months left. We're still getting started on this. At any moment, we hope and we do really pray that
people
the
will
rest
come on
of the
board.
organizations that are waiting for 2016 will quit waiting, will take action today, and do something.
Patrick, that's a very principled stand, and I definitely respect that. The reason, of course, that a lot of people are waiting for 2016 is because they're raising money and they're hoping to have the big support to push. But also, a lot of people look at a compromise initiative and say, if we need 50% of the votes, we've got to come to the middle. Do you think that that voters are ready to go to the left, or do you think that they're going to want to stick in the middle? And I'm thinking in terms of Prop 19. Voters weren't quite ready to get behind that. So don't we have to come a little bit more towards the mainstream in what we're proposing?
I think the Jack Herrera initiative is very close to the mainstream. There's really nothing very radical about it. The idea of freeing the pot prisoners has always been our big issue. But even
Right,
the other
that doesn't seem radical at all. It seems
Exactly.
logical. If you're going to legalize, you don't want people languishing in
It's
prison
on the
that are...
call, but,
And
they
just-
need
just-
to be radical in the suburbs, right?
Rich, just to remind everybody as well, I mean, I'm an ESL teacher, and I try to remind myself of the power of words that we use. Now, radical means going back to the foundation and to the root of something, right? Or it's mathematically, it's connected to a root. And so radical is not far out. It's actually really fundamental.
Radical
It's
is
something that we've come from. And so, again, hemp and cannabis legalization was something that was existent in this country.
For
many years.
For most of the
Yeah.
country's
And when we
life.
talk about it, like if it never functioned before, like it's like this brand new thing that we've never addressed or never used, it's really not looking at the historical richness of our history and knowing and working with this plant.
You're absolutely right, darling. It's not really looking at our history, because when you think about how all the first 10 presidents grew hemp, the slaves were clothed in hemp cloth because cotton wore out too fast.
Our first laws in America concerning cannabis required us to grow cannabis in America. We're not allowed to live here unless we grow cannabis.
Our most famous documents are written on hemp paper,
Yes.
grown here in America and not imported from Canada or
Right.
Taiwan or wherever the hell they're growing hemp these days.
Yeah,
Getting back to our radical roots would be good in that,
yeah,
in
you're
that sense.
absolutely right.
So we talk a little bit about the 2016 initiative. There is another 2014 initiative, and we invited
Them to come join us.
We invited them to come and join us today. They didn't have a representative that could come and join us today, and I don't want to disparage that at all. But I would
invitation
like
is
to.
open.
I would like to know what maybe you guys think the differences are between your initiative and their initiative, and we are at a commercial break, so
Tell us when we
let's
get
find
back.
out when we get back. We'll be back in just a moment, and we'll find out the answer to that really wonderful question that I just asked.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Marijuana, and we are in a deep discussion about one of the 2014 initiatives here in California that is being it's being put out there to get on the ballot in 2014, and that is CCHI. It is California Cannabis and Hemp Initiative of 2014. There is another initiative, and before the break, I was asking what. We asked them to come on. They didn't come on, and I would just like to know what you think the differences are between your initiative and their initiative.
Ironically, it was Richard Davis who asked me to start speaking with John Lee and the groups that I was putting that together about a year ago. So I was kind of a representative from our group to them. And it started with a 3-page initiative. They basically took the Jack Hare initiative and added a few things. And at that point, the debate began. Well, why would you complicate this issue? Why would you take it in the positions they were taking already were losing me a little bit. And then over the course of a year, they opened up a forum online and allowed it to be open source legislation.
Safety cannabis.
Yeah. And if you just ask any lawyer what he thinks about open source legislation,
It doesn't.
They probably won't stop laughing long enough.
It's difficult
answer.
to get open source.
Idealistically, in principle, it's great. In all reality, it's maybe not such a great working idea. So it went from this 4-page initiative to a 35-page initiative now that they've now, for the second time, re-registered just a few days ago.
And they'll start signature
So even if
collection.
they start
In
in
December.
middle of December, they'll only have half the time we have to get it on the 2014 initiative, and basically they're working on getting on the 2016 initiative this year. And with a 35-page piece of legislation that I honestly have not been able to finish reading in full at this moment, but I got far enough to realize that it was legally compromised. It's just going to be very hard. The judges and sheriffs and everyone down the road is going to have a heyday with it, and I believe it'll probably create more problems than solve in its long term, even though, again, it tried to structure itself around the principles of the Jack Hare Initiative. So at the very root, there's things in it that, of course, I appreciate and like, as there were with all the initiatives.
Right.
It's about finding those 1 or 2 things, and with Prop 19, it was an issue for me making it a felony to smoke in the presence of a child. So also, when I started looking around me like everyone's going to have their ounce or 12 plants and think they're safe, and every time a kid is in the presence of somebody smoking, they're going to become a felon. that could happen to
Anytime.
anybody.
Anytime, of course.
There were
sooner or
problems
later,
with
right?
that.
So if we create laws like that, and I think that was a lot of the problems they had with Prop 19. I know they don't like to recognize that, but a lot of the activist community saw that and pulled back. And what could have been that last 2-3 points might have been the grassroots movement that would get behind something that didn't make us a felon, that didn't treat us as if we're inferior, we're bad people for doing what we do. So. Again, I believe a well-crafted piece of legislation that addresses everybody's issues will be embraced by everybody. And I think we have a large majority in the state that's willing to take a bold step forward. And I believe then hopefully teach the world that not only does you have to legalize, but you can legalize in a very idealistic way. You can legalize in a way, you can use us as part of the spectrum to look at on what legalization looks like, and maybe we'll see
And
more
should you
pot
have
prisoners
success,
free.
the not you would have not compromised, and that would be a victory in itself. Should
Absolutely.
you? And I wish you success on that.
People kind of expect that from California.
Yeah,
It's kind of
that's
what we're
true.
known for.
Well, we again extend and hope that some representatives from the
Save
other
to Cannabis
initiatives
will come. Save to Cannabis?
Save
To Cannabis is what they're calling it. Yeah.
There's their initiative is called Save to Cannabis, and we certainly extend an invitation to them. We'd love to have this kind of a dialogue with them, just to get the ideas out there, and let people start to make up their minds with informative knowledge behind it. You guys have really filled in some blanks here and brought some not closure, but just extra information that we need. We like here to really get information out to our listeners. That's the point of this show. And
where can people reach out to you to sign your petitions, to take petitions, to have people gather signatures, to get in touch with you, to give you money? Where can they get in touch with you?
If people are watching our video, it is down there in the just underneath us, the website. But there are people that are just listening. So why don't you say a couple of times the website?
Sure. People can go to cchi2014.org. Again, that's cchi2014.org. And there you can click on volunteer. If you are interested in volunteering any of your gifts and talents to the initiative, we need people to help raise money.
That's
we need
great.
people to educate. I mean, anything that you feel drawn or compelled to do and participate.
Need people to gather signatures,
Absolutely.
right? 750,000 signatures.
Yeah, I mean, if we had 3,000 signature gatherers, each one of them would only have to collect 250 signatures.
Sounds like a deal.
Each.
You need signature gatherers, though. So you guys listening, help out. Call them.
Call up, volunteer.
Volunteer.
On the website are a list of businesses around the state that are carrying the initiative right now, where you can go in and sign, or go in and pick up a package of 20 or 40 pages and get out into your own neighborhood. So we are fanning out like that
Are you
daily.
guys giving instruction classes to people who are gathering signatures? Because I know that in our experience in Los Angeles, they threw away so many signatures, because you have to be very careful. So you guys are also providing information for the people that are doing that, because there's a way to do it so that you're not just wasting your time.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do trainings on a regular basis. We have a fantastic video posted. We're also at CCHI 2012 and CCHI 2014 on Facebook.
Oh.
So we have very active Facebook pages where we have videos posted about how to collect signatures, a lot of our media events, everything's up there.
So if you're listening, you were turned on by any of this, get involved. They're doing hard work and deserve at least your attention to see what's going on. You can see, if you're watching the video, this is a little their website that's coming up right now, and it really goes into detail explaining the core of the initiative, and then again how you can help and volunteer and do whatever you'd like to do to help out this
Donate
effort.
money. Donate money.
The actual initiative is linked onto the website, so you can read it there.
In its totality.
Yeah.
Totality.
So let's get to our dope of the week.
Yeah. Okay.
We always give this short shrift on our show because we're so excited about all the things we have to talk about. But this week there was another dope. They tend to just pop up every week in one way or another. And this comes to us today from the Weed blog. It was posted by John Payne, who I think also goes as Johnny Green.
Johnny Green.
It was basically he posted an open letter on the Weed blog that he sent to the vice president of the Missouri Narcotics Officer Association. His name is Kevin Glazer, our dope of the week, Kevin Glazer. The open letter addressed a gathering that they had. It was called Show Me Cannabis. It was a town hall meeting in Cape Girardeau, and they invited everyone to come. They really wanted, again, to have an open forum, much like we have here, where they can discuss the issues surrounding cannabis. And at this forum, it was mostly advocates, and this gentleman who came from the Narcotics Officer Association seemed to have been there with maybe one other police officer. I'm going to start the letter out, read you a little bit of the letter, a little bit of what he wrote. What do you got?
I was going to say, then he went home and posted on Facebook.
Right. Okay.
This guy went home and posted on Facebook.
Well,
that's what you're going to read?
No, this is the open letter after he posted on Facebook, but it's a short little bit before I'll read the post from Facebook. And this is from John Payne, who wrote him. Sergeant Glazer, I was pleased that you attended Show Me Cannabis Town Hall meeting in Cape Girardeau last Monday. Believe it or not, we are really attempting to create a rational dialogue between the most ardent cannabis law reformers and prohibitionists and everyone in between. Despite our deep and passionate disagreements about how the law should treat those who use cannabis, I thought the discussion and the meeting remained civil and in good faith. That is why I was deeply disappointed when I saw this on your public Facebook page the following day, or 2 days later on Wednesday. And now I'm reading directly from the Facebook post of Kevin Glazer. Should I use a good voice? No, I'll just use my voice. Tonight, I had the most delightful evening. I attended Show Me Cannabis meeting for the legalization of marijuana. It was held at the Cape Girardeau Public Library. This was a good location because it afforded many in the group an opportunity to actually visit a library, probably for the first time in their life. There were over 100 concerned and civic-minded citizens in attendance. Oh, and 2 cops. My views and opinions were not well received, and they appeared to have very closed minds toward what I had to say. Many impressed me as having no minds at all, or at least very slow-functioning minds. A quick scan of the room should by itself be ample evidence for not legalizing marijuana. It scared the hell out of me that these people actually go to the polls and vote. But I voiced my opinion, and they voiced theirs. Tomorrow I go back to fighting crime and serving the public, and they go back to drawing their welfare check and trying to figure out how to legally grow marijuana, I mean hemp, so they can turn this economy around, cure cancer, treat glaucoma, and destroy the Mexican drug cartels. What a great country.
What a jerk.
Wow.
That guy is our dope of the week.
Yes.
He deserves it.
And our hero of the week, which we don't really have, but our hero of the week is Johnny Green. Johnny Payne for writing him. This article goes on, and John tends to then go through point by point and say, look, you're a representative, you came in good faith, you obviously have biases, and you let them show. You seem to be as closed-minded as the people that you're saying were closed-minded. He pretty much rips up the whole thing.
I think that people should go read this article. It's a very long article, but it's very interesting. He called us stupid welfare-sucking potheads as well.
He basically...
All based on his opinion, right?
On his opinion, yeah.
No empirical evidence whatsoever.
No, he definitely is a dope of the week.
He was a dope of the week.
Haters gonna hate.
There's so many ignorant people in this country. You would think, with the age of technology and everything, that, they would be a little bit more well-informed than that.
Like maybe using that big library in front of his, in his study called the internet. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Maybe he hadn't been to the library either. He doesn't know how to use it.
That's what was kind of embarrassing about Sanjay Gupta explaining. Up until a year ago, he had never seen the research.
Exactly.
Yeah, his field, so it is easy to overlook.
I don't think this cop is going to be swayed by facts.
Never let the facts get in the way of a good bias.
Of a good drug war.
Crying out loud. Speaking of Sanjay Gupta, it hit me this week as I read through many of the stories that obviously we're not going to have time for today, but that's fantastic. It's such a great discussion that we've had. But it hit me today that this week there were major articles in the New York Times health section, the Nation's Catherine Van Hoovel. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but she put an editorial in her magazine that said, come on, it is about time. We all know what's going on. And many of the articles now are referencing Sanjay's turnaround.
The Gallup poll.
The Gallup poll that is now 58% of Americans favor legalization, which has jumped 10% in just a year. And I'm not so uncertain that Sanjay's announcement had much to do with the forward motion of that. And all of these articles are citing the buildup, the momentum that we have for legalization and just a rational discussion, a rational way to look at legalization for marijuana. Take away all the craziness, the myths, what's that movie that we all hated back in the 30s?
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness. My bad, I love to forget that movie. But take all that away and out of the discussion, and let's talk about, as Don says, those annoying little facts that seem to always get in the way. We want to thank our
so much,
guests today, Patrick and Jeanette, coming from CCHI. Thank you so much for coming and talking about that. And
hopefully you guys will be back to announce how you guys won.
And we look forward to talking to you guys in the future on that. So thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Hemp, hemp, hooray.
Hemp, pura vida.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.